Right guys, I don't know what happened there, but my phone just cut off. So, I've cut the track, I've polished the rail, I've filed the rail out with a box file. I've cleaned another rail. So now I've cut the so when you take your rails out, end of your scale electric tracks like this. That's to take the peg, and that for the peg to sit on. So when you cut your track, you haven't got that. There, look, just normal rail, just full up rails. So what you do is you cut this bit of plastic out to make this. Cut that off the end for the peg, allow the peg to go in, and then you cut that piece out, that rail. So like I've done there, I've cut that out, that gap out there, to accept that peg, which fits in there just right. So let's give this a little bit more of a polish, because it's a bit just wants a little bit more. Right, I think that's as good as that's gonna get. So that just slides over the top of that. That fits over that, and that's back to a normal, cut back to a normal thing. So the other thing about making your own track, cutting your own track up, is you've got no clips or guiders to put it together. So what I do is when I put it back on my track, what I'll do is I'll drill it. I'll drill through the side and I'll screw it down so it can't move on track. So that's located in there, just nice and rails nice and polished. So when you get your new piece, your fully sanded piece, that just slides in. You see, look, I need to cut that out there. So you want a sharp scalpel knife or any sort of knife you want to use. Always cut away from you. Go roughly where it wants to be. So that's your peg side. That far one's your peg side. This one's your female side. So what I'll do is roughly mark that in there, and then I'll slide the knife down, just lever it across. With it being a brand new scalpel blade, it cuts it right easy. So like I've said on my other videos, when using tools, when using tools and you're doing what, if you're copying me and you hurt yourself, don't come crying to me about it. Take responsibility for your own actions. This is a video of how I do stuff, how I put it together. It's not a video to say you've got to do it this way, you've got to this, you've got to that. Right, so that's cut out now, this little bit here. So when you slide your track together, that fits in there nice and tight, snug. But there's no peg to come in here, no peg to go in there, no clip, no guide. So what I do is when it's on track, when it's in and it's nice and tight fit, you see how that's a cosy fit. What you do there is you drill through this piece, through the whole lot, through the peg, through that peg underneath, through this, countersink. Put a countersink in your drill bit for your little screw and screw it down, and then same on this end, and that's that joined together, and that's your track joined together like so. So I'll just I'll clean them other two rails. I'll clean these two rails here. I can put these straight back on, so you can see burring where saw's gone through. Just get your needle file, just file it, and then it'll become smooth. Like so, and then just file edges off so it's nice and flat. And I'm only touching the burr there, I'm not going on to top it rail, I'm only touching the burrs, taking the burr off the end. So you want to make sure these inside edges are nice and smooth so your guide doesn't get caught on your car as it's going along. You don't want it to de-slot as you're doing it. So that's that all done and smooth enough. Now just to polish that rail up. It amazes me how dirty that gets. How dirty these rails are. Bit of water on end, on your rag. Bit of autosol. Rest it on edge of your bench, so it's flat on edge of your bench. You can hold them tags that hold rail into plastic. And if you listen, you can hear it. You can hear it cutting into muck. And that's literally all you're doing. Rubbing that forwards and backwards. Just polishing all muck off. It's quite satisfying really, I think, if you've got a bit of, if you like cleaning stuff and polishing things up. Back in the 70s and 80s when your grandparents had brass hose, had brass ornaments, and you'd sit there polishing them for them on a weekend. That's not coming up too bad. There you go. One rail polished. So I can put that in this side. And then you can see on end at rail how rail just curves in at end, just drops in at end. So make sure you're putting your rails back, because that's your factory end, factory standard end, and that's your cut end. See all burrs on metal, and that's my cut end that I've filed up. So now I need to cut this bit of plastic here. So I'm going to make that shape out of that piece of plastic there. So I'm going to cut it again. Just push down on blade, make a fine incision, and then allow roughly that gap again to because you need to make that island bit. So you can just then go in at an angle, flick that big bit of plastic out and keep flicking it, just keep taking it out a bit at a time. I've seen people on YouTube as well, have melted the track with soldering iron and made it into like a cobbled area. I suppose you could do like Indianapolis 500 with brick yard, that yard of bricks that's still there, that they used, that they had for NASCARs when it first started. So you could do something like that on a piece of track. So you've got to make sure that this is done right, that your pegs have done right, because you've got to allow your rails to sit flat. If you're doing that wrong, if you haven't done it properly, if you haven't trimmed it off properly, then your rail's gonna sit too high. I've got a single track section on my layout. You can see another video of it, Escort Cosworth. The Scare Electric car Escort Cosworth running around it. That's all Scare Electric track that I've just cut. I've cut bends and straights and all sorts of bits and bobs just to make up what I want. Right, so we're just about there. Where's my peg gone? Right, so I've polished that. That fits on there. We can see it's not flat. I just need to trim that out a bit more. So you've got a cut out in peg that fits over at gap. That's a bit better, but it still needs a bit more out. Right, that's that bit done. So that rail's still filthy. That rail's nice and polished. I need to put the other peg on there. Oh, that's gone. In fact, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's still on here. So I'll just pull that out. That's, you can see your muck line where it's clean. Clean that muck line and clean. So this muck line round here, that's stopping the connection, the electrical power running through from one rail to your next rail. So you need to really clean that. They really need to be proper clean, so that when you put it on, when you connect your track up, you get a really good connection. And also I've noticed with the Arc Pro system that I'm running, it's an absolute fantastic system. It's the best thing Scare Electric's made for your track systems. Is fantastic, Arc Pro. But it does need to have perfect continuity between the track and the joints. It does. The other thing with the Arc Pro is when you go into digital, so digital to analog, the track's only live when you pull your trigger. When you pull your trigger on your controller, that powers your track, sends power down to your track and sends power through to your car and your car turns, motor turns, and off it goes. Well, when you've got the Arc Pro system and it's on digital, your track is live all the time. It's always got power in it. And that means it's only very tiny voltage. I think it's 0.9 of a volt. I think when I tested it, it was 0.9 of a volt, which is not a lot of power. But it's got to have permanent power there, because your chip, when you program your chip in your car to a controller, then that controller will drive that car. But for it to know that, for it to know which car it is, it's got it's got the chip in its program to, so like a frequency, they call it like a CAN bus. In mechanics, in cars, it's called a CAN bus system. So it works off a series of millivoltages and signals. Your power base sends power to your car through electrical impulse. So with your electrical impulses, it pulses it, and your chip picks it up. Oh yeah, that's wants my car to move, so it moves your car. So because these impulses are such a tiny voltage, such a minuscule voltage, if you've got resistance in any of your joints, it struggles to get that signal. And if you don't get the signal, your car stops and jitters and messes about. So it's imperative that you track on Arc Pro, on that digital, that your track system's all clean and all your joints are all nice and tight. So that's why I'm going to put, when you put jumper cables on, so I've got this power straight, I've got half a straight behind my Arc Pro power base. So when I've done that, when I put my jumper cables on, I'll solder my joints to the back of this and then connect that straight to that power base. Make sure power bases, the rails are tight and clean. Make sure that's tight and clean, and then there's no resistance in the joint, because your muck and dirt results in resistance, electrical resistance. Electrical resistance means your power's not going through it efficiently and properly. The other thing with resistance is it creates heat. If you're trying to force power down a joint and you've got and it's got high resistance, then it can't send that power efficiently. So then it causes heat, and when heat happens, when it gets hot, things melt and set on fire. This won't set on fire and melt, but it will certainly not like it. It'll not like your cars will not be running properly, and it'll be jittering and messing about and pushing it on places and that, and it's like right annoying that it's not working properly. So I'm going to put jumper cables on and do a video on it, so you can see the difference with track system. Because it's old track, it's all been cleaned loads of times. It's had heat cycles through it, going hot and cold. And I think just putting jumper cable on just help it that bit better. I suppose it's just maintenance of your track and making sure everything's all right with your track. My shed's fully insulated, and it's ply lined and fiberglassed. There was only 3 sections of my roof that's not been done. Everything else has been done. So you don't get that much. You don't get no condensation, or you don't get like the full heat of the temperature from outside. If my roof weren't insulated, it gets unbearable in here. Like 35 degrees outside, like 40 degrees in here. Right, this is about ready. This rail. It's alright, that. It's not overly, it's not filthy now anymore anyway. So it's just getting dirtier and dirtier. Right, so that's now nice and clean. And just put that in place. Right, that's my track. A new straight cut to length. With nice polished rails. I'm gonna pop this on, see how it looks. Right, you can see here my holes I've drilled and countersunk, so you can see where they're going. So this piece will fit into here, like so, like that, and I can just drill through those. Use a 2.5mm drill bit. What I'll do is I'll just set camera up on track and I'll show you me fitting it. So that's my track piece in place. I'll just, the screws I'm using are 3mm by 12mm. And the imperial size is 4x12, bit ½ inch. The countersunk heads, I've already countersunk my track. I'm using a 2.5mm drill bit, drill through my hole, like so. Same on this side. And I just screw through both bits of track. size screwdriver bit. And you can, if you want, you can go over the edge with a bit of black paint. Not too much though, because you don't want to. You don't want to cover paint up complete. You don't want to cover it up completely because you'll need to unscrew it at some point. So you just take a little bit. Just touch it over so it's just covered. So it just gets rid of the silver showing. And there we go, that's that. So that's me, that's the track piece I've cut. I've cut this track piece here. Polished rails. Can tell the difference between rails, look. And that fits in that gap. And then we've got up and over. Oh, my track's really dirty. That's a standard piece, they're standards. And this is my half straight here that I'm going to take out and put the jumper cables in when I do that job. You can see General Lee and Fast and Furious from thing. So you can see my lights are lit up because it's on digital. These cars are all the DPR. These two are DPR. The Dodge and the Escort. You can see the chip there in the middle. And then I've got this bronze Escort which is on my cover. That's not DPR. I've wired a chip into that, a Formula 1 chip into that for that one to work. You see there's no flap underneath. But you can see LED just there in the back. So that's that Escort. And I've got my plastic pig, who I've been reliant, Mr. Bean. And he's got a chip in him, a F1 chip with LED just at end. And then I've wired them lights up so they light up fully all the time as well. You can just see lights on that. But on these Escorts and others, on Escorts and others you can see lights right bright. Right, so that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.